And the other day I was in my car listening to a commercial, and I'm just sitting there at a red light, and I hear this honking, like honk, honk, and I'm like, who's honking? It's a red light. Like, I'm not supposed to, and then I hear the honking again, and I realize it's the commercial. I hate those commercials.
I know, me too. I hate those commercials. I think that should be illegal.
Yeah.
Or when they play a police siren.
Oh.
That's the worst. My heart drops because I'm just like, it reminds me of my days when I was in a gang. And
Really?
no, I'm just kidding. Welcome to the Web of Tomorrow. We're your hosts, Riley Carrasquillo.
And I'm Adam Harris.
And we're really excited to get together again today, especially after a little absence last week. Turns out we had a crappy audio file. It would have made a great remix with some sweet beats, but other than that, it wasn't really suitable for our purposes.
Yeah.
Unfortunately. Which really stinks because we had about 40 minutes of content that we thought would have been really valuable to us. Or to you guys, not to us. What am I talking about? But, and then we started thinking about it and we thought, we actually didn't really think it was that great anyway, so.
Yeah, so we're not even going to talk about the same thing.
Nope.
We're recording something completely new this week.
Yep, web design trends. You can go out there until we're ready to do it in a better way. Until we've grown as far as our powers in the force. Our force powers.
Yeah.
Anyways, so today what we're going to talk about is the D3 library. It is actually fairly common depending on what you do or want to do.
Yeah, when it comes to data visualization, which is what D3 is all about, there's really no competition as far as making visualizations on the web. There's just no other framework that does what it does or as powerful as D3. And in fact, if you look up any other ones, they're probably based off of D3. They're probably using D3 behind the scenes.
So if you go to D3.js.org, you'll go to his website, and in the top right-hand corner, there is a fork me on GitHub.
You don't see that as much anymore, do you?
I don't know. I don't feel like I have almost ever seen it.
I used to see it a lot a long time ago before I even knew what GitHub was or what forking was. It sounded weird.
Yeah. Oh yeah, fork me. That definitely sounds weird. But go ahead and fork him on GitHub. And basically, if you don't remember, what that means is that you will essentially copy or have access to all of his open source D3 documentation and data and code.
Yeah.
So you probably should get into that since data visualization, wow. Data visualization is super important today.
Yeah. And I've never actually forked it, but I have started.
Good for you, Adam.
And D3 is trending on GitHub quite a lot, actually.
Yeah. Well, that's good. They should be, with Domo's super success, right? Because data visualization will be... I feel like I'm saying like an L at the end of that data. Data visualization. Data visualization. Goodness gracious. I cannot speak English today. That's another example of me not being able to speak English.
If you go to their homepage, I feel like the first time I came to this homepage, I saw all like this hexagon layout of all these different visualizations, and I wasn't super impressed. I thought they were kind of ugly. What's your feeling on that?
Yeah, no, actually, I have the same feeling, but I think it's cool because it's representative of what you will probably be able to do. Now, the funny thing is, the New York Times has used this in amazing ways.
Yeah.
So a really cool example of how powerful D3 is and what you can kind of do with it is the New York Times once released a infographic, I guess you can say, or a graphic showing the constellations of directors and their stars. That's literally the title, so you should go look it up. It's really cool. And it shows directors and the stars that they most commonly use, but it's done in such a really nice, visually striking way that the visualization tells the story in and of itself.
Yeah, I think the New York Times actually calls it interactive storytelling.
Yeah.
And I actually found an article that just lists out 2014, the year in interactive storytelling, and it lists off all their cool examples.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's something that everyone should check out. Just because if you like a little bit of animation, but you never really think that you could get into animation, or you don't have like the animation type skills to get into, this is a really good way to jump in there and get a taste of what it's like to create something visually without necessarily being a straight up graphic designer. Or
yeah, and these aren't just like boring charts and graphs. I mean, this constellation of directors and stars is really cool, and like as you're scrolling down the page, you can see the different directors and hover over them and see all the connections. Can you like click on them?
No. Yep.
Oh, and yeah, you can click on it and it takes you to the IMDb page.
Yeah, look at that. Whoa, that's cool. Yeah, and
Some of them are really complicated. Some of them are really small.
There's also a lot of other really good ones. One was really popular in 2013.
4 Ways to Slice Obama's 2013 Budget Proposal.
Yeah.
Sounds really boring, right? Budgets. But they use a really cool thing in D3 called a force layout. And what that does is basically you can draw these circles, and then it computes the forces between these circles. Like there's gravity, and then the circles bounce off of each other and repel each other. And so these circles get bounced around into different formations depending on how you want to slice the data. It can either throw them all together or like spread them out into these different groups.
The cool thing is that Adam's actually working with this stuff, whereas I'm not really. I'm more of a student, I guess you could say. And I think it's something that is really cool and fun. People will definitely be impressed by your skills pretty easily. It's one of those things where, like, you know, a lot of programmers will do things that people won't understand, and they'll just be like, okay. So
yeah,
that's
this
cool.
Is something
Why?
You can really show off to people.
Yeah, you can show this off, and people will immediately, especially people who have never programmed before, and people who have programmed before, will look at them and they'll think, oh, that's cool. What you just did there.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen some really cool examples of using data mining and D3. So taking that information actively and transforming it into a interactive story, I guess you could say.
Okay, so what is D3?
So D3 is a library. So it's not a framework, so don't get those too confused, but it's a library for data visualization. So its main purpose and point is to, as we've been saying kind of over and over again, take that data and tell the story that you're trying to tell in an intriguing and attractive way.
Yeah, and it can be interactive, and it's on the web because it's JavaScript. And there's a really good free ebook called Interactive Data Visualizations for the Web by Scott Murray. And you can either buy that or just read it for free online.
And then obviously his website is a good resource for seeing examples and giving you a little bit of an information about how to do these things. Anyways, you've got a lot of resources available to you. And then obviously, if you're local, every once a month, Domo actually does a D3 meetup as well, and that's really cool because they do some really cool, simple walkthroughs where they take you through some examples of how to do things, and sometimes they're really complicated, sometimes they're a little bit more simple, but it's a really great way to meet some of these experts locally who are working with D3. And then the last three things are the simple things. How D3 affects HTML, what is SVG, and then how it affects CSS, or how CSS, I guess, technically is used to affect or use D3.
Yeah, I mean, so D3 itself is in JavaScript, and then you can use it to bind data to the DOM. And you can either use HTML, you can say you can maybe make a bar chart using divs, and divs can look like a rectangle. Or what's a lot more common is you use SVG, because SVG has rectangles and circles and lines and paths and all sorts of stuff. And SVG is just a image format in vector format, and it looks just like HTML really.
So why vector? Because there's like these two things, right? Pixels and vectors, and you see them come up quite often in web design. Why vector?
I think it's just because SVG creates DOM nodes just like HTML does. But vector's also good because it can scale infinitely large.
So when you jump into a D3 document, I guess like not layered, but filled out document. So you've got D3 in there. What does it look like? What is it doing?
Okay, yeah. So the first thing it typically does is you've got your data. Your data can be, it's usually it could be an array of numbers or an array of objects.
It can be taken from a database.
Yeah. So you've got your data, and then the next thing you do is you make a selection, and you're selecting, say, rectangles. Well, there's not any rectangles on the page yet, but you're selecting rectangles and binding data to it. And then D3 says, oh, I need to add all those rectangles. And so you've got your initial selection of things that get put onto the page, and then you've got your selection of things that were already there but maybe need to be changed. So maybe your data changed, so the bar needs to grow. And then maybe your data has gotten smaller, so you may need to remove some rectangles from the page. So it's basically enter, update, and exit.
So let me see if I understand correctly. Then technically, if you have no data in there, you're still setting the parameters of what your data will look like and do when the data does appear or is in there. So if you have an array, for example, that has nothing in it yet, and then I don't know, you do something where your D3 is, or your program is counting how many users are getting added.
Yeah,
and
you can have adding a real-time graph and see them as they're added.
Yeah, and so at first it will look like there's nothing there when you have no users, but as users get added, it'll start adding bars and heights to those bars as users start jumping in there.
Yeah, or maybe users leave and then your bar shrinks.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so you can actually go in and actively see your bar shrinking as well if you're losing users, much like MySpace would have been able to see that when the dawn of Facebook came.
So another thing D3 does, besides just the data binding to the DOM, is it has DOM manipulation stuff just like jQuery. It has data manipulation stuff a lot like Lodash or underscore. And then it also has some SVG helper functions. So you might need to draw an arc path, like a piece of a pie, that shape. It's got stuff to help you draw that shape.
Now I want some pie.
Yeah. Do you have any pie?
No, unfortunately not. I will next week.
All right.
Because next week's Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
Now we have to release this week, because I mentioned Thanksgiving next week.
Yeah.
But I'm also on a diet. I'm not eating sugar during the week. Only on Sundays I'm allowed to eat sugar. So I shouldn't have tempted myself that way.
Bummer.
Now I'm just thinking of Costco pies that are already ready and made, or Marie Callender pies at Walmart. It's almost as delicious as D3 is. Yeah. So.
Yeah, because D3 you can have pie charts, donut charts.
So what else? Is there anything else that we could talk about with D3? You can link your D3 directly to your HTML by throwing it at the bottom as a script tag, right?
Yep. Yeah, and there's a CDN for D3. It's on their website. It's like d3js.org/blah blah blah.
It's there for you to go use, so go use it. Next time on The Web of Tomorrow. Oh, Enrique, te quiero mucho. Oh my gosh. That's going on the end.